Like Adam Silver calling the NBA fans pores?
That was the first major issue I've had with Adam Silver. He sounded nuts.
That shit was great.
He sounded absolutely nuts.
He said that?
He said that if you can't afford the streaming services, the great thing about the NBA is the highlight league.
What if the very person responsible for steering the NBA into a new era suddenly told fans the league isn't really about the game itself anymore, but more about the flashy clips you scroll through on your phone? That's exactly what happened when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver called basketball a highlight sport, and the reaction was immediate, loud, and divided. Some fans saw it as honesty about where the league is headed, while others blasted him for cheapening the sport they love. Let's break this down. Silver's words weren't delivered off the cuff during a casual conversation. He said it on the big stage at the Bloomberg Screen Time Conference, a gathering of top media and entertainment leaders. There, he admitted that today's NBA isn't consumed in the same way it was even a decade ago. Fans don't always sit through full games. Many prefer quick clips, short recaps, or viral highlights that flood Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube within minutes. He doubled down by pointing to the league's new media deal. The NBA recently inked a massive contract that brings in streaming platforms like Netflix. That's not just about broadcasting games live, it's about packaging basketball into bingeable, shareable, snack-sized content. Silver framed this shift as the NBA embracing reality, but fans heard something different, that the league was admitting full games don't matter as much anymore. The backlash online was swift. Critics accused Silver of reducing the sport to just flashy dunks, buzzer beaters, and viral drama. For diehard fans who treasure the strategy, the pacing, and the tension that builds across 4 quarters, his comments felt almost insulting. It was as if the very essence of basketball, the grind, the teamwork, the subtle plays that don't make highlight reels, was being dismissed. On Twitter, one fan wrote, "Imagine telling us we don't even need to watch full games anymore. Just wait for the TikTok edit and call it a day? Trash." Another compared the NBA to the WWE, saying Silver was turning basketball into entertainment first rather than competition first. That's a brutal comparison, but it captures the frustration some fans felt. At the same time, not everyone was angry. Some younger fans defended Silver's perspective. They argued that he's simply acknowledging what's already true. Today's audiences have shorter attention spans, and the NBA has to evolve to stay relevant. For them, watching a 30-second Ja Morant dunk on TikTok is just as exciting as watching an entire Grizzlies game. Silver's words, in their eyes, weren't disrespectful, they were forward-thinking. This divide reveals a bigger tension brewing inside the NBA. Is it primarily a sport, or has it become an entertainment product shaped by social media? For decades, the league was built on iconic rivalries, long playoff runs, and full-season narratives. Now, it risks being consumed like a collection of viral memes where moments matter more than context. And this isn't happening in a vacuum. Look at other sports. The NFL thrives on condensed highlights, fantasy football, and red zone, which skips everything except scoring plays. Baseball struggles with long game times and has tried to adapt by making the pace faster. In that landscape, the NBA leaning into its identity as a highlight sport might be a competitive strategy, but for traditional fans, it still feels like a betrayal. As the dust settled from Silver's comments, one thing became clear: he had touched a nerve. His words sparked a conversation not just about the NBA, but about sports in general and how technology and culture are reshaping the way we consume them. Is this progress or a warning sign? And that's just the beginning, because if Silver is right, the way you and I experience basketball might never be the same again.
Adam Silver's comment about the NBA being a highlight sport didn't just rattle fans, it also reignited a much larger debate about how basketball is actually consumed in today's digital age. Because, let's be honest, the way people watch basketball today is nothing like the way they did even 15 years ago. Think about it. Back in the early 2000s, if you wanted to catch an NBA game, you had 2 options: sit through the live broadcast on TV, or record it on a DVR and watch it later. Social media wasn't flooding your feed with clips every few minutes. You couldn't rely on YouTube to show you all the dunks, crossovers, and game winners within hours of the final buzzer. Fans had to sit down, invest time, and experience the flow of the game. That's how rivalries are built, that's how narratives grow, and that's how players become legends. But in 2025, everything is different. The NBA's official social accounts push out clips seconds after they happen. Independent creators cut up highlights, edit montages, and post reaction videos that often go more viral than the league's own content. On TikTok, you'll find 15-second edits of Steph Curry pulling up from deep or Anthony Edwards throwing down a monster dunk. These bite-sized clips rack up millions of views, often from fans who may never actually watch a full Timberwolves game. And here's the tricky part. The NBA encourages this. It's not an accident. The league knows attention spans are shrinking and competition for eyeballs is brutal. So instead of fighting against the culture, Silver and the NBA lean into it. By calling basketball a highlight sport, he's signaling that the league isn't ashamed of this shift, it's ready to monetize it. That's where the new media deals come into play. Netflix is entering the NBA picture is massive. This isn't just about live games. It's about documentaries, miniseries, player-driven content, and yes, curated highlight packages that feel like binge-worthy shows. Imagine a format where instead of watching one full game, you watch the best 5 minutes of every game from the night before, all stitched together into one streamable package. For casual fans, that's gold. But for purists, it feels like the slow death of the sport's soul. The divide between casual and hardcore fans is growing sharper. Casual fans are happy scrolling through highlights, catching big moments, and following storylines through memes. Hardcore fans, meanwhile, are the ones who buy League Pass, track advanced stats, and analyze plays possession by possession. Silver's words landed like a slap to the latter group because it felt like the commissioner was publicly prioritizing the former. Some even argue that this shift could impact how the game itself is played. If the league markets itself as a highlight machine, doesn't that incentivize players to chase moments instead of wins? Think about it. A flashy dunk might trend more than a perfectly executed defensive rotation. A deep three from mid-court might generate more engagement than a well-run half-court offense. Over time, could this change the way players approach the game? We've already seen shades of this. Players like Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, and even LaMelo Ball built massive followings off their highlight plays before they even hit peak career form. Social media made them stars faster than championships or long playoff runs ever could. That's great for visibility, but it also shifts what fans and maybe players value most. But here's the twist. While many older fans worry this shift cheapens basketball, younger generations don't necessarily see it that way. For them, highlights aren't a shortcut. They're the main event. A 10-second viral clip might inspire a kid in another country to fall in love with the NBA, pick up a basketball, and become a lifelong fan. That's powerful. In Silver's eyes, maybe that's worth embracing, even if it frustrates traditionalists. Still, the reaction online suggests the league is playing a dangerous balancing act. Too much focus on highlights, and you risk alienating your most loyal fan base. Ignore the digital shift, and you risk becoming irrelevant to younger audiences. Silver's job is to find a middle ground, but his blunt phrasing at Bloomberg made it sound like the NBA had already picked a side. By the time the conference ended, social media was flooded with debates, think pieces, and hot takes. Was Silver just being honest about where the NBA already is, or was he carelessly telling hardcore fans that their way of watching no longer matters? One thing's for sure. His words didn't just spark conversation about basketball. They forced everyone, fans, players, even other leagues, to confront a bigger question. When a sport becomes a global entertainment product, how much of the sport part gets left behind?
The fallout from Adam Silver's comments didn't stop with fans. Analysts, journalists, and even former players weighed in, each with their own perspective on whether calling the NBA a highlight sport was a slip of the tongue or a revealing peek into the league's true priorities. On ESPN, one panelist argued that Silver was simply acknowledging a trend that can't be reversed. Look, he said, young fans aren't going to sit down for a 3-hour broadcast. That's not where the attention economy is headed. You can fight it or you can lead it. Silver is choosing to lead it. But others were harsher. A retired player fired back on social media writing, "Basketball is chess, not a TikTok dance. If you only watch the highlights, you miss the story, you miss the heart." That sentiment struck a chord with older fans who still remember staying up late to watch Michael Jordan's Bulls or Kobe Bryant's Lakers, living every possession as if it mattered. To them, Silver's phrasing wasn't visionary, it was dismissive. The league itself, of course, has been experimenting with balancing both worlds. NBA League Pass now offers condensed game versions where you can watch all the key plays in under 40 minutes. Social platforms stream alternate broadcasts with influencers reacting live. And then you have projects like The Last Dance, a Netflix docuseries that proved long-form basketball storytelling still has power when done right. The question is whether this balance can last. If highlights keep dominating, what happens to the traditional broadcast model? Will networks still pay billions for rights if the majority of viewers just want clips? And if the NBA doubles down on short-form content, will it risk undermining its credibility as a competitive sport? These aren't just fan concerns, they're billion-dollar business questions. There's also a cultural dimension to all this. Basketball has always been more than a sport. It's been tied to fashion, music, and lifestyle. Hip-hop and street culture fueled its global rise. Sneakers became status symbols. Players became icons not just for how they played, but for how they lived. In that sense, maybe Silver's comment reflects reality. The NBA has long been about moments, images, and highlights. Maybe what's changing isn't the league itself, but how honestly it admits it. Yet fans still feel protective of the game's essence. They argue that the beauty of basketball isn't just in the viral plays, but in the grind. The defensive stops nobody notices, the off-ball screens that free up shooters, the adjustments coaches make between quarters. Highlights capture the explosion, but not the buildup. And without the buildup, the explosion loses meaning. This is where the NBA faces its toughest challenge. Can it grow its global reach through short-form content without sacrificing the richness of the full-game experience? Can it sell the casual fans the sizzle while still feeding the diehards the steak? Silver's phrasing, highlight sport, made it sound like the league is leaning hard towards one side. That's why the backlash was so intense. In the days following his remarks, the conversation took on a bigger life. Sports radio debated whether baseball, football, and even soccer would face the same fate. Some said Silver was brave for telling the truth out loud. Others said he was reckless, giving fans the impression that the NBA doesn't care if you stop watching games altogether. And maybe that's the real reason his words hit so hard. Because deep down, every sports fan fears the same thing, that the game they love could be stripped of its depth, repackaged, and sold back to them in bite-sized pieces, that the stories, rivalries, and traditions might one day matter less than the views, clicks, and trends. For now, the NBA still has both worlds in its hands. Hardcore fans continue to fill arenas and stream games, while millions more connect through highlights online. The danger is what happens if the balance tips too far. Because once fans start believing that full games don't matter, it's hard to convince them otherwise. And so the question lingers. Was Adam Silver simply describing the present, or was he predicting the future? If he's right, the NBA may never return to being a league where most people sit down and watch all 4 quarters. Instead, it may become the ultimate content machine, serving up endless clips for an audience that never stops scrolling. That's a future some fans welcome and others dread. But one thing is certain. Silver's words have forced everyone to ask themselves what they really want from the NBA. Is it still about the game, or is it about the show? Because in the end, that's the choice that will shape the league for decades to come.